What's up, YouTube? Friendly neighborhood comic book dude here. Let's see. You might notice no poster behind us this week. Well, for any of you guys who aren't aware, nationwide, the comic book distributors, Diamond Comic Distributors, has ceased shipment to all comic book stores. Kind of makes you think that there was a monopoly on the distribution market. That might be a conversation for a comic chat once we get to our 100 subscribers. But the reason there's no backdrop is because, obviously, with our coronavirus pandemic here, the stores are closed and they're not getting new shipments, and my steady stream of posters has slowed to the moment. I do still have some stockpiled somewhere that I'm trying to dig up, but I thought I wouldn't hold up showing you guys some new stuff this week, based solely on something like that. What else we got going on? Couple announcements, too. No comic book video this week as well. Just plumb forgot to grab some comics when we got some stuff for the collection this week, so guess just have to deal with all the lovely collectibles we have this week instead, right? And, last thing here, we're up to about our 12th video total, and I just wanted to thank everybody again. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. Thank you guys for enjoying this collection with me. For anybody that, might not have, started from video one, this is about sharing my friend Frank Toko's collection with the world. And for anybody that knew Frank wasn't a super open person. He didn't, invite every Joe Schmo into his house to see his stuff. But, it took years for me to be friends with him and get in and see things and enjoy the stuff and help him. And one thing I can say about him is, while he may not have been a huge fan of letting people in, he was a fan of impressing people. He liked that. I saw the look on his face many times when he would tell me about something or show me something, and he'd catch me being impressed, and it would kind of trigger a reaction for him, and that's probably always going to stick with me. And as I go through these things of his, it is, all these things are for sale. But, there is still a certain level of nostalgia, and especially when it's a specific piece, maybe things that I've actually handled with him, talked with him, helped him unbox. So, again, if for nothing else, he enjoyed when people enjoyed his stuff. So thank you for enjoying his stuff with me. Let's start off here. As I've kind of been going, I have reminded you guys too, there's a Patreon, which gets you guys a day early access to everything. And at time of recording, having already put these things on the Patreon, 5 things have sold. 3 of them I still have in my possession that I'm going to show you guys to sort of nana boo boo you guys. I swear that's not really the case, but I don't want to just tell you about stuff and not be able to say, hey, this is what I got. So the 2 things that you won't see today are NECA figures, but they're sort of an older line of NECA. They're cloth action figures as opposed to the articulated plastic ones that you see nowadays, like the Ultimate NECAs. I had somebody that was into them, and, just happened to run into him before it was time for the video, and obviously in these quarantine times, I, wasn't going to make him wait for me to film a video, so... But yeah, one of them was a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and the other one, Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw, and the other one was a Jason, specifically from Friday the 13th, Part 6. I do still have 1 figure left from that set, and I will show it to you, and you'll sort of get an idea for what those were like. And we'll get to that in a minute. I will start off by showing you something else that, as always, seems to sell before we can even, show them to you guys. But they're still beautiful to look at. Our friendly neighborhood Mezco Living Dead dolls. Who do we got here? We've got Peggy Goo. We've got... Oh, this one will be 3rd. We've got Ava. I don't know if you guys noticed, too, the little logo that they used on these. Sort of an homage to the original cover for Dawn of the Dead, not 2004 Zack Snyder one, the other one. But yeah, so there's who we got there. We got Ava. The last one, I really like this. This kind of reminds me of Ringu or something, but this one's named The Lost. The Lost. she's like Cher. She doesn't have a name. She's got a title. The Lost. I will say all three of those rounded out to about $190 for the set of them. Of those three, Ava, for some reason, was the most expensive. I actually was my money was on Lost, but lost. So there's that. Let me get for you that other cloth NECA we've got. And I think part of the reason we still have this guy is some of these older cloth NECAs were pricey. And I mean, they're not even like super old. This one, some of its copyright data. This one's only 6 years old, actually. When I say old, I just mean older compared to now. This is our buddy Ghostface. Ghostface. I think we've already sold a Ghostface once, and it was probably one of the newer NECA ones, but it wasn't this one. And I don't know why. I mean, he looks cool. He's got tons of little accessories and stuff too. This one is pricey. The range on that Ghostface is between 130 and 180 is what I found. Sold listings. Probably going to see that for about 100. That's, I think, still a good deal compared to what you're finding out there. But I'm as stumped as you are. And just for the clarification too, Scream 4. I don't know if that makes a difference. I don't know if that... I mean, I was always a huge fan of the Scream movies. He doesn't look drastically different to me, but my theory is that maybe at the time people weren't buying it because they maybe had ghost faces from previous Screams. So when they wanted it, they didn't buy it, and now there's a market for it. So drives up the demand. But yeah, so like I said, probably about 100 for him. Ooh, this next one. Things like this are among the reasons I get stumped by collectible values at times, mostly because one would think age and scarcity would be a surefire indicator of, higher value. Not necessarily the case. Our next piece from McFarlane Toys, which usually had not necessarily limited numbers, but they weren't as mass-produced as some. They usually went lower casting numbers for their figures than some companies. Also, the Crow, who has had, merchandise, but he's not Jason, where there's a million copies of him out there. Our buddy Brandon Lee here. So, yeah, this is the movie Maniac series from McFarlane Toys. We had Edward Scissorhands from this one last week. And, honestly, this guy runs about the same price, to be honest with you. I mean, beautifully rendered. I can't stress enough how well McFarlane makes their toys. But I mean, if you're a Brandon Lee Crow fan, you're going to score this from me for probably about $25. It's just, I don't know if there's just everybody who's got this already has it out there, so the people selling it and or selling it to people just aren't paying very much. But yeah, $25 on him. What's next? This next piece. This one's another one that I just for many reasons I feel like should be more, but just was not. I don't know why. Now this thing. Do that in a minute. So this is ObiWan Kenobi's Jedi Starfighter from Clone Wars. No, not even actually. Attack of the Clones. So this is about 19 years old now. I believe the copyright on this is 2001. It's got multiple modes. Say what you will about the quality of some of those earlier Star Wars. Well, not earlier, but earlier chronologically Star Wars films. The vehicles were cool. And this is just another one. It's a Hasbro. Damn near 20 years old. $25. So if you need to add this to your collection, feel free to score it for a relatively inexpensive amount. Oh man, I don't know. Yeah, the other thing, and and collectible buyers might be just benefiting from the unfortunateness that we're living in right now, but it's a buyer's market. There's more people out there buying, also maybe partially a seller's market because people need money, so the people with means who don't need to buy extra toilet paper can spend their money on Starfighters, right? Sound logic in my book. And people that need that extra money for the TP are going to let this stuff go for cheaper, and since I base my prices on market value, you get it for less. What do we got next? The relatively inexpensive but semi-rare items keep on coming. That's also we're not quite ready for that yet. So let's dive into this one a little bit. We did, I believe we talked about our friends at Mattel last week. We talked about Barbie and some other things, and they're pretty big, one of the biggest toy companies in the world. And it's not surprising that one of their biggest probably retail outlets was Toys R Us. We miss Toys R Us. I actually think that we were set to see a return to Toys R Us this coming Christmas or end of last year. They were talking about doing like some pop-up Jeffrey's Toy Box type locations after like they had just gone bankrupt. They're like really tugging our heartstrings. But Toys R Us was one of the first, I won't say the first, but one of the first major toy outlets to license exclusive figures, like for big name stuff. The reason I say they're not the first, there were other places like KB Toys out there that also did exclusive things. But that being said, even though it was a Mattel toy, what you're about to see next, it was a Toys R Us exclusive, so you could only get it there. So for you Batman Dark Knight fans, if you wanted your Heath Ledger Mattel fix, it had to come from Toys R Us. I'll be honest, it looks like there are 3 figures that were in this exclusive set. Of the 3, I think Joker's the best looking. You can't see the Batman all that well on here, but his face is like super. Ooh. It's like somebody like before they sent it to sell stuck his head like in the toaster or something. It looks super messed up. For lack of a better term. He's 12 inches. He looks pretty sturdy. No cloth or anything, so he's like a solid piece. Some articulation I see. He's got bend spots on him, so you could probably pose him a little bit. He's got a knife in his hand, so you're likely gonna make him looking all stabby. This is gonna run you about $50, which I'll be honest with you, I don't think was probably too much more than it cost retail. This is the type of piece that I would think sold for probably in the $35-$40 range retail, like $39.99 seems like a fair ask price for a 12-inch. Maybe a little less, maybe $29.99. But given this came out 12 years ago, an increase of value of not even 50% is not bad. So, yeah. We got next. Well, we couldn't very well. I guess we couldn't do a Joker without a Batman, but I think we did that once already, and I thought maybe this time we do it with a Batman. However, this is not the same Batman that goes with that Joker. This is our boy Michael Keaton. This is a beautiful NECA 18-incher. That looks like a leathery cloth cape. Stunning piece. Yeah, I don't know. This box is beautiful. Everything about this is beautiful. And that's also sort of reflective of the price because he was a pricey one. The range on this guy was between $190 and $225, so the average is like $210. I think we'll cut everybody a break and say $150 and you can stare at Michael Keaton every night. I think that's a fair deal, especially because he's cosplaying for you too. I don't know what it would cost to get the real Michael Keaton to do that, but probably a lot. So yeah. Beautiful, beautiful piece. Oh man. Let's see. Let's keep the big stuff coming. So last week, or I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, we had a Galactus. Galactus was pricey. Galactus was a Marvel Universe, I don't know, like a 12-incher. He came with like a minifigure of Silver Surfer with him. I think his average was $250, right? So there was another figure in that same vein released roughly around the same time, and it was a big old Sentinel. You know, mutant killing monsters that fill the X-Men's nightmares. That kind of Sentinel. Yep. And, you know, he's got sound, makes noise and things. Got him, man. He did it before. He's making doot-doot sounds, if you can't hear him. But he's pretty great looking. I had a Sentinel toy as a kid, and I always wish it had looked this nice. The only caveat is in the one that I had as a kid, you could pop out the chest and put a figure inside, as if the Sentinel was, like, holding on to the mutant while it, like, flew to wherever it was going to fly to. But, I would trade that for something that looks this awesome in a heartbeat. Not too keen on the color scheme, to be honest with you. It's probably like a newer looking Sentinel that they grabbed for this. I would have loved like the ones from like the animated series done in a quality like this. It comes with a little baby Wolverine up there in the corner there, little yellow Wolverine. This guy didn't go as high as Galactus. The range on this one was between like 75 and 130. So right about 100 is where this is going to go for, which I have no clue what something like that would have cost. I wouldn't be surprised if that thing was like $70 or $80. Hard concept for remembering what toys cost when I was a kid, but you know, at a certain point you were kind of just like, I don't have the money, so it might as well all cost $100. But that feels like what they would charge for something like that, like $75, $80. So you're probably not paying much more than what it retailed for, to be honest with you. And that came out 10 years ago. Pretty good. If you need that for your collection. The next thing. I haven't found anything from this series up till now. I'm starting to think that he wasn't a fan. So, Game of Thrones, right? We love it. Who's everybody's favorite person? You know, all depends on what who in the audience we're talking to, your preferences, your likes, your dislikes. But I think most of us have some sort of like for Daenerys Targaryen. And what better way to enjoy Daenerys Targaryen than to have a bust of her? Yeah. Which is sort of ironic because her bust is cut off. But it's Daenerys with a dragon, actually. It's even cooler. Get some other angles of it like that. That dragon is like fully wingspanned out. This is pretty great. And this was licensed by Dark Horse, who produced comics. This came out in 2012. I'm trying to think of why they specifically would have made Game of Thrones stuff. There have been a couple of Game of Thrones comics, but to my memory, they weren't Dark Horse. They were Dynamite Entertainment. So, I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe Dark Horse slipped out some Game of Thrones comics and I missed them. But, yeah. Also, I'm not entirely sure what something like this would have gone for. This came out in 2012, though. And busts, especially busts like this. This is... I don't even know if we get a scale for like what the size on her is. She's a limited number, though. She's out of 2,000. She is number 1,144 out of 2,000. But yeah, I'm not sure what something like this would have gone for. Busts are a hard game. Busts are like 100, 150, depending on who it is, especially when they're licensed. I mean, half of what you're paying for is just the name. But Daenerys can go home with somebody for $60. Yeah, relatively inexpensive. I don't know that reflects on her or the quality of the item so much as, you know, what we were talking about earlier with the current economic situation. So it's a collectible buyer's smorgasbord. But yeah, $60 will land you a lovely Daenerys bust. What else do we have to share? This next thing I'm not super familiar with, to be honest with you. It strikes me as something that would have been in the vein of Twilight Zone, we'll call it. At the very least, seems like the same time period. The look on the box for this art, which isn't really art so much as it looks like a stylized photo, reminds me of Twilight Zone. I mean, I'm aware of this property's existence. I'm just not. It's not something I ever watched or got into. So somebody else might have a greater hard on for this than me, than I would if this was Twilight Zone related. But get Outer Limits, and on the box it says Ikar and Ikar's soldier. And then when we open it up, we get to see Ikar and the soldier, right? I'm always as full disclosure as I can be with you guys about this stuff. There is a nice old ding on the back. It, doesn't necessarily indicate that this thing's ever been broken. Seals are still up here. But, I always try to factor that stuff into the prices when I'm looking at this stuff. And I think we went on the lower end on this, like the range on this was like 55 to 75. I think we're gonna let this one go for 50, just to satisfy anybody. And again, if you're the type of person that just gonna open it up anyway, then I guess you're gonna save some money because of my overcautiousness when it comes to people and their need for not messed up boxes, which I totally respect because I know if it was my stuff, I would feel similarly if it was something that I didn't ever want to display out of the box. But yeah, so about $50 for the Outer Limits. Cool thing to note about this too, it's a Sideshow piece. We still haven't gotten any Sideshow statues. I really want to find some so I can show you how beautiful their statues are. But I think you've gotten some picture in your heads about the quality of their dolls at the very least, because we've seen a lot of dolls and you're going to see a lot more from Sideshow. In fact, that's probably a really good price for a Sideshow item. $50. This probably retailed for more than those ranges I gave you guys. Alright, what else do we got? Today was a little bit of a bigger week because I think maybe subconsciously I knew there was going to be comics, or I just, by the time I realized it, I was just like, alright, let's just grab some more stuff. This next piece is, I don't even know what you want to call it. Is it a music piece? Is it a horror piece because of the type of person and the way he presented himself? I don't really know. We have an 18-inch Alice Cooper. Look at this guy. Just looking at him, he wants to strike fear into the hearts of people. Welcome to My Nightmare. Asylum Ultimate Series. Fair enough. I think this is one of the ones that I had a hard time finding. Oh no, there it is. 2001. So damn near 20 years old for this beautiful man, if you're a fan of his. Range-wise, he was between 40 and 140. So the average around there tops out at about 90. I think we settled on 75 for him. I think that's a nice round number. That, and also probably by the time you get the shipping in on this thing, it'll go back up a little bit too, because this thing is huge. And if this experience has taught me anything, I have week after week I get a better handle on what shipping rates are, which unfortunately might make them a little higher from week to week, because as I leave the post office and realize something that I only charged $12 shipping for really cost $18, it helps me better the next time I have to determine a price. But so if you're a fan of Alice Cooper, this guy's for you. He's got a couple of... I see dust in a couple of spots, and I wish there was a way I could clean that out. That's sort of the downfall of these things with press me spots. It's almost like an invitation to to get dust, and I hate that, but what are you going to do? Let's see here. We do have one other Living Dead doll this week, which I kind of didn't lump in with the other ones. One, because she hadn't sold yet, and two, she's not like the exact same as the other ones. The other ones are like your standard fair coffin Living Dead doll, and this is more like a we're gonna make it look like a Living Dead doll, but this is really a licensed character. And I mean, if ever there was, there's a few doll horror icons that should be Living Dead dolls. If ever there were to be a doll, Annabelle. Positively do not open. That right there is your disclaimer. So if you buy this and you open it and bad shit happens, you knew. Annabelle came out in 2014. Annabelle isn't that much. Especially compared to some of these like unlicensed Living Dead dolls. And that actually, as I think about that, sometimes I wonder if those are more because they're not licensed characters, because it's like, this is it. This is the one time we ever made this character, and once people caught wind of the design and loved it, it was just like, that's it. Versus Annabelle, there's lots of versions of Annabelle. Not necessarily as well depicted, especially this is, maybe it's not scale, but it's pretty close. She's gonna go for 45. 50 just seemed too much, Gotta slash off $5. What else? Have another in the line of hardcovers this week. This is a beauty too. This is a volume 1 of Captain America. Captain America Omnibus Volume 1. And this covers you from, just tell you what it collects, or they're supposed to. Here it is. Collects Tales of Suspense, $59 to $99, and Captain America 100 to $113. So for people that aren't familiar with Captain America, like many characters of his time, they didn't start in their own titles. They started in other titles. Captain America and Iron Man were in Tales of Suspense. And at that 100 marker, they changed the title over to Captain America rather than give it number 1. They kept the numbering, but technically Captain America 100 is really his first issue as an ongoing title. So these retailed for $100. I think we are going for 70 on this one, which, again, I think we talked about this once before. Collections don't usually appreciate in value, with the exception of these ones that reprint really old things, because even if this one goes higher than what it retailed for, that's still way less than even a fraction of the titles that are inside of it. And you don't have to worry about, like, oh god, am I going to ruin my copy of Tales to Astonish number 59? Oh no, I'm just going to read the hardcover and enjoy the story as much, if not more, sometimes, because of the quality of the pages and the reprints and stuff. So 70 bones to get you that lovely collection of about, what is that, almost 60 issues of Captain America. It's not bad. It's like a little more than $1 an issue. So what else? The last batch of stuff we got today were some more sideshows. Part of the reason why I said that you were not done seeing them, there were a lot of these today, and I'm kind of going to apologize in advance for the lack of variety, so to speak. So when I got my hands on these sideshows this week, they were in like almost like a box that they would have been in when they got to a comic book store or something like that. It was like a box that said like sideshow figures times 6, and they were just like all in there already. I didn't really get a huge gander at them. I just saw that they were like different Universal monster type things, or so I thought. There is a lot of overlap, but on the other hand, if you're a collectionist and you're trying to collect all of these, even the subtle differences may not deter you from getting some of these. So let's see here. The first one, I believe is this one, yeah. House of Frankenstein. House of Frankenstein was sort of Universal's attempt at, well, actually any of the House of Universal movies were almost like their MCU crossovers of the day. Because even though it was House of Frankenstein, it had, we got Wolfman, we got OG Frankenstein. I want to even say Dracula might have been in it too. A lot of times the Houses, though, like, brought, up top there, tell you, Frankenstein, Wolfman, Dracula, Hunchback, and Mad Doctor. Just look at that. All those for one film versus some of the earlier ones where it was like just Frankenstein, just Wolfman, whatever the case may have been. Probably want to see the actual figure there. So the figure himself was of the creature. And the things to note here are the stuff he comes with. So he's got a book, he's got a stand, he's got some brains, some like brain pans, things like that. That is going to be one of the biggest variations you see today, because Sideshow, I have to imagine they were kind of using similar models when they made these, because they all came out in 2001, and a lot of the Frankenstein creatures look the same. Again, you know, if you're trying to get them all, then it's not really a deterrent, but, you know, what else? So that one, out of curiosity, is going to run $45, which is the cheapest of any of the Sideshow ones I'm about to show you. From there, we've got Wolfman. However, it is the Wolfman cover, but it's not actually the Wolfman creature. It's somebody from the film, and it's Bella the Gypsy. So one of the like side ancillary characters who was actually played by Bela Lugosi. And, you know, he featured prominently in like the dissemination of like the information about the curse between him and the old gypsy lady. He is probably going to be harder to come by, because, you know, again, he's sort of a side character. When you're trying to get all these, you know, those are going to be the harder ones to get. Now, Frankenstein, you know, 5 Ways from Sunday. Where are we? Creature. Where was Bella the Gypsy? Dracula Renfield. Oh, Bella the Gypsy was 50. So, there's that. Okay. What else we got? Next one, cover is Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. I just gotta say, the art on these half sells me on them. Because they're almost just like beautiful square 3D movie posters that you could like display like just for the art. I don't know for the prices, but you know, it's almost like a two for if you like the art and the figure. But this is another creature. So take a peek at the guy. He probably doesn't look too different than the last one you saw. But the things to note are the stuff he comes with. So he's got like a walking stick this time. He's got a journal up top. He's got some dynamite over here. He's got another stand on the bottom. And honestly, the stand looks very similar. But it is from a different film. The artwork is different. Let's see. He is 60 though, as compared to 45 for the other one. I don't know, man. Walking sticks just really worth their weight in gold. But what do we got here? We got 2 more. Ghost of Frankenstein. Ghost. Beautiful. Frankenstein. Oh my god. So different. And yet. The differing stuff this time, different books that he comes with, same stand again, chains this time to be chained up. That's cool. Almost might be worth having like all the accessories first. You just like monkey around, like make different Frankenstein scenes. That one, Ghost of Frankenstein, was also 60. Chains. The chains do it. They do it for him, Daddy. And what do we got? Our last thing. We need to break up the Frankenstein monotony a little bit. Dracula. blah. But this also is another one where it's not quite what it appears to be. This is our boy Renfield. For anybody who's not familiar with him, he's kind of like the Igor to Dracula. He's the Igor for Dracula. Yeah, because, I mean, Igor was for Frankenstein. But yeah, Mr. Renfield, who's not quite a vampire, but not quite normal once Dracula has his way with him. Comes with a deed to the house that he's selling Dracula, a lantern, a stand, and a satchel. He's pretty cool. Another one of those like side ancillary characters that, like, you know, if you want them all, that's where you get a dig for those older ones. And Renfield also is $60. Yeah. That feels like we spanned a lot of stuff today. So that's gonna do it for this week. I should have this stuff up shortly, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you keep coming back for more. I hope if you feel so inclined, you share it with other people. Like I've said several times, I want to bring you guys other content too, which I feel, you know, is better served to a larger audience. So as always, I'm your friendly neighborhood comic book dude. I'll catch you guys next time.